What's up, Team Takeoff? Today I'm going to be talking all about the penultimate stride in a 2-foot jump, what it is, how you should do it, and why it's the key to unlocking your vertical jump potential. Let's go. If you guys have followed me for any amount of time on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, you guys know I talk a lot about jump technique. I talk a lot about the penultimate step. And the reason for that is that it is the quickest and usually the easiest way to see real increase in your vertical jump in a short amount of time. A lot of times you guys are powerful enough, elastic enough, fast enough, but just because your technique isn't there, you're actually being held back. So for those of you who don't know, what is a penultimate step? In a 2-foot vertical jump, it's the step before your last. Penultimate just means before the end. So in a 2-foot jump, it looks like this. You start your approach. For me, who is a right-left jumper, which means I plant my right foot, then my left foot, it looks something like this. I'm pushing off my left foot back here, plant with my right, and then block with my left. In full speed. I like to think about the penultimate step like a bridge between your approach and your takeoff. There are a lot of factors in between here that are all kind of bunched in together that if you don't do or you don't accomplish, it's gonna hurt your jump height. So let's talk about those factors. So in my book, there are 4 major keys that really make a penultimate step a good one. So let's talk about what they are. The first one is lowering your center of mass and your hip height. The reason we want to lower our center of mass and our hips is that it's going to give us more potential to actually push off and deflect off the ground when we go for that block. So in a penultimate step, if we look at it, the lower I am, the more distance I have to travel in my knee flexion here. If I'm really stiff and upright and I don't really get too low, I'm not going to be able to push and deflect off the ground as much as I want to. The second key is creating acceleration. So in a good one, we really see a good full push off. And if you guys have seen any of my videos, you know that I always preach a gradual acceleration. You got to start out slow and make those last 2 steps your fastest. So the reason for this is because the higher velocity we have going into it, actually the more potential that we have to convert upwards. However, there's a caveat, because if you're not strong enough or you're not elastic enough and you're coming into this takeoff with too much speed, you're actually going to blow through your block. So make sure that it's acceleration you can handle. Number 3 goes along with number 1, and it's just to get into a powerful position. So if you ever see a good 2-foot jump, you'll see typically at the end, right when their arm swing is coming through, it's gonna look something like this, something in a semi-squat. And if any of you know, have ever lifted weights, you know that people can easily have 300-400 pounds on their back. Very powerful in this position to push up. That's just gonna go along with your vertical jump. Lastly is just to put you in a good position to block. So if you listen to what I said before, it's all about creating horizontal velocity, and our block foot, which in a 2-foot jump looks like this, plant, block, it's gonna help create or transfer that horizontal velocity into vertical. So now that all of you know what the penultimate step is and why it actually can increase your ceiling for your vertical jump, let's go into how to do it. Step number 1 for your penultimate step is the push off. So if you're a right-left jumper, you're gonna be pushing off your left foot. If you're a left-right jumper, you're gonna be pushing off your right foot. Now, it's gonna depend on how tall you are, how strong you are, but to use myself as an example, someone who can jump 39-inch max vert, I take off my penultimate step usually somewhere right here in front of the foul line, that push off. It's gonna give me enough space to travel, to lower my hips and get into that powerful position. So a good push off usually means full hip extension. So what does that mean? When I'm pushing off here, my toe is gonna be pushing off, I'm gonna be traveling forward, but if I can see that my leg is fully straight behind me, that means that my hip is fully extended, and then I'm getting the full extent of my power through here. And like I mentioned before, it's a continuation of your approach. So build up speed, push. That's what it should feel like. Going right off of that, it can actually kind of be in the same step, but that's beginning your arm swing. So typically you're gonna synchronize the beginning of your arm swing with that push off. So what that looks like is full hip extension, pushing up behind me. My arms are gonna be coming back here. So as I'm coming through, usually, boom, throw those arms pretty much up to my shoulders. You can either throw them out and come through or throw them right back. This next step is what I'm gonna call your air time. So there's a little bit of time in between your push off and your plant, your block over here, where you're actually gonna leave the ground for a short amount of time. Now the key is you don't wanna be traveling too far in the air. You wanna be staying as close to the ground as possible through this step. You wanna be stepping through, not hopping through. So let me show you what a bad example looks like, what hopping looks like. So if you're hopping into your step, it's gonna look something like this. Your hips are gonna travel in this kind of arc formation. The problem with that is when your hips are coming down, say your hips are up here, it's gonna come down and then you're trying to hop back up. So you're actually fighting even more force because you're coming down and then trying to jump up than if you were to just step through and come straight through. So if you film yourself, you'll actually be able to see your hip height through your steps. So from here to here, if you look, what you want to see is your hips maybe starting up here and then gradually sinking as you get further in your steps. So something like this. See how I got lower between that step and my push off? Also included in your air time is your posture. So after your push off and you're in the air, you don't want to be letting your torso fall forward. It's called torso recovery. If you come through and you're facing downwards like this, you're going to have to pick yourself back up before you jump. So if you can just keep your posture upright while you're pushing through, keep your hips in front of you, it's going to give you a much better position to push off of. The fourth part of the penultimate is that plant foot. So after your air time, you're traveling through, you're going to hit that plant. So for me, I'm a right-left plant. My right foot is going to come down. I push off, I travel through, boom, this plant foot comes through. I'm actually going to be striking the ground with my heel first and rolling through this foot. So my hips are in front of me. I'm going to plant my heel, and what this is going to do, it's going to help decelerate me a little bit and help me sink into my hips a little bit more to get into that power position and get ready for this block to come through. So to put it all together, push off, let the hips sink, get into the plant, like so. Boom. All right, last but not least is the block foot. This is probably where I see the most mistakes made in my athletes and other people that ask me for help, and it can definitely make a big difference in your vertical jump. So let's talk about it. You push off, you're traveling through, you plant, now what? So like I mentioned, we're creating horizontal velocity this way. We're not trying to jump up and hop into our plant and our block. So because we're low, because we've lowered ourselves, this foot, we can't let this foot travel up and stomp. We can't stomp the block foot like this. This is not what we want. When we're down low like this block foot is almost gonna have to swing outwards a little bit. If you see it from the front, swing it outwards and around, and we're almost just scraping it against the floor. You can think about it like scraping. Another crucial part of the block foot is your foot placement. So if you actually internally rotate your foot, which means pointing it inward, it can actually help you stop a little bit quicker. So what this looks like is it comes through, instead of just pointing my foot forward like this, forward right at you at the camera, I'm gonna be turning it and pointing it inwards, almost probably at 3 o'clock coming through. It's gonna help you stop. The last part of the block, and this gets pretty technical, so don't work yourself up about it. It's even hard for me to do. It's synchronizing your arm swing with your block foot. So what does that mean? When my block foot comes through, I plant, I block, my arm swing should be down, pointing down at the floor while this foot is hitting. So look something like this in slow motion, like boom, boom, come through. When you do it right and you can synchronize that block foot, it actually puts more of the force downward into the floor so that, you know, we in a vertical jump can travel upwards. So what I just taught you guys is what I consider the ideal penultimate step. What does that mean? There are actually plenty of jumpers out there, plenty of dunkers, people you see online maybe, that don't have this quote, like long penultimate step. What their penultimate step looks like is what we call toeing off under the hip. So when they're pushing off their penultimate step, their hip isn't fully extended. They're not getting a full push out of it. They're actually usually just carrying in a lot of speed into their approach, pushing off here and just jumping straight up. You'll usually see guys that say like, oh, that guy looks super springy. It really just means that these guys are relying on really elastic force. Like they can really react off the ground quickly, push off the ground quickly. So what do I think about this? Well, I actually used to jump like this. I'll throw up my video right now of what my jumping style used to be, what my penultimate step used to be. And with it, I actually got up to about 37 inches. And there are plenty of amazing examples of jumpers who jump like this and are able to reach even higher heights. Take my boy Travis Reynolds, for example. Travis Dunks on Instagram. If you watch him, you'll see him toeing off under the hip. He has a short push off, but he can jump for his max vertical, I believe is 11.7.5. He can touch, he's 43-inch vertical. And another insane example is probably Anthony Height, 5'6", but with a 50-inch vertical. So, damn, Anthony Height can jump 50 inches in the air with that kind of technique. Why wouldn't I do that? If you jump with a quote-unquote short penultimate step, I'm not going to discourage you from stopping if you are performing really well. But that's the caveat. If I see that maybe you've hit a plateau, in which really happened to me, If you hit a plateau with it, then I would strongly encourage you to start getting a full push off, full hip extension into it. Why? Because one, it checks all of the boxes that I mentioned before. It's really gonna get you into a good position to jump high. And also, I'm just gonna say, if you look at probably the best 52-foot jumpers in the world, probably, I would say 15% of them use that short penultimate technique. So if you want your best chances of reaching your full vertical jump potential, then a long penultimate step, the one that I described in this video, is gonna work best for you. All right, that's pretty much gonna wrap up today's video. I really like talking about jump technique because I think it helps you guys out a lot. So if you guys wanna see a full 2-foot jump technique breakdown, where I go all the way from the beginning of your approach to the end, then hit the like button. Let's see if we can get to 100 likes. We've hit 100 likes before. It's definitely something I think we can do. And obviously, if you guys got any benefit out of today's video, I would really appreciate if you guys hit the subscribe button down below. I'm gonna be coming out with more videos like this to help you guys out. Finally, if you guys are watching this video and you're struggling with increasing your vertical jump, maybe you're dealing with some pain, maybe you wanna get your first dunk, whatever, and you need some help, reach out to me on takeoff.athletics on Instagram or my personal Instagram, takeoffconnor. Send me a DM, let me know what your situation is, what your goals are, and whether you're a basketball player, a volleyball player, whatever, and you want to increase your vertical jump, let me know and I'll help you out. That's it for today's video. I'm out.